So we are discussing, hopefully you all know, we're doing advisory and board member stuff today. So we've got a really great panel of people who all have very different perspectives. I'm going to let them briefly introduce themselves and kind of talk about their experience in those areas. And then we've got some questions that several people sent in. And then we're just going to open it up to questions and make it more of a discussion than a formal presentation. So be storing those up. Yeah, so Linda?
Great. Hi, everybody. I think I know almost everyone here since I get to come and hang out here, which is wonderful. So I think I'll speak from my experience, first of all, with starting 23andMe and kind of how we went about getting our board set up, and you know, I'll interject comments about how we did that because it's really something you want to be so careful about, and everybody knows that, but I can't stress enough that you want to be really choosy, and this goes all the way to the point of where you're talking to investors, because you have to automatically, right from the beginning when you start to talk to people, could I have this person on my board, and could I hang around with them for another 10 years of my life? That's kind of the right way to frame it, because if you're going to be spending an awful lot of time with them, and things are going to be good and things are maybe going to be not so good, you really want to get a feel for how they're going to behave in situations like that. So I think the main advice is that you really want to try to get to know them as best you can, but then interview other people whose boards they sit on currently, and try to get a feel for how those people are interacting with them, what the pluses and minuses are, and as long as you kind of know that going into it, you're going to be much better off. But it's best to think about this almost like a marriage, and that's difficult. But it can also be such a positive, and depending on the people you end up with, especially on your board, advisors are a little different, and I think we'll try to discriminate between the two different groups of people that you're working with. But boards are, if chosen well, can be incredibly helpful and useful. And I think from my perspective, and it's now interesting to be on a board versus being a person working with a board, it's really good to be specific with them of things that you need, because they really want to help, but unless you kind of give them specific tasks and topics and things to work on, and go and have them do something to bring back some information for you, if it's just really kept really general, then you don't feel like you're being very helpful. And we got that a lot from our board members at 23andMe. We were so busy doing our thing that we would tend to forget that they were there as a resource, and that they really do want to help. And so it's really good to be mindful of that, and keep a running list of things that you think they might be able to help you with, like salaries, and there's all kinds of things around building your business that if you just pose questions to them, it gives them that feeling like, I've done something for that company, I'm paying my way, and my weight on the board is actually is a positive and not a negative. So, but we can go more into that, but that's kind of where I'm going to be coming at from this conversation.
Cool. So I think I know most of you as well. My name is Jae. I'm founder and CEO of goBalto. Actually, it's interesting when I was invited to speak on this, because I'm actually building my board of directors as we speak right now. I'm knee-deep in discussions with a few VCs negotiating term sheets, and yes, board of directors are definitely high up there. I guess a question just to the audience, like as far as where everybody's at in the evolution of their company, are you guys more interested in thinking about the advisor issue or more around the directors at this stage of the evolution company? Because I think those are two very distinct needs, particularly at the stage of, particularly when you're early on. So, you know, when I started off goBalto in particular, the advisory board was certainly a lot more that I leveraged versus giving any thought to directors. I mean, directors, they become much more relevant when you're actually out there, you know, doing the fundraising and pitching, but the advisory board are the folks that are actually out there on the front lines with you, championing the cause. So to the extent that, you know, I could provide some perspective, particularly on that, I may be looking for your counsel on board directors, but from the advisors, I think that's where you're probably going to get quite a bit of bang for the buck. So, and I can speak to quite a bit in terms of how they put the name out for our company out there to many of the key opinion leaders. So that's what I'll be talking about.
Great. So Abhas Gupta, I've met most everyone in here as well. I'm summer associate at Mohr Davidow. My background is in consulting and in medicine, so I think where I should be able to provide some insight, obviously not as experienced as everyone up here, but is more on having physicians be on your board and sort of what that means for the organization. I've obviously worked with a lot of folks in the past. and then maybe some insights into sort of strategically how you maybe I guess think of it as like a portfolio of members that are on your board and sort of how you want to distribute them, and so we'll get into that later as well.
My name is Jeff. I sit on the board of a company that I started called Cloudera. I've done a dozen or so angel investments and seen those companies put together boards. And I used to do some presenting to the board while I was at Facebook, so I guess that's been my interaction. I've served on a few advisory boards myself as well, so I can discuss it from that perspective.
Cool.
So when you guys say board, just plain board, referring to board of directors or advisory board?
Oh, I think maybe we'll say board is the board of directors, and then advisors can be either scientific advisory board or technical advisory boards, but we'll differentiate. We'll say board is the directors.
Okay.
That's a good differentiation.
Yeah, so maybe the best place to start is actually, you and I were just talking about this, is, you know, all of you are at seed stages, right? Like nobody's doing a Series B at this point. So where do you start? How do you start? What are the things that you should be looking for right now in terms of?
Yeah, and so actually Michael would be kind of good, because we just had and this is also pertinent, we just had a discussion with Michael about this very topic of assembling your board, and at what point do you even give up board seats? And I don't want to make it sound like you're giving something up, but that's kind of how it feels, and you want to feel like you're getting the best person you possibly can, because again, you're going to be living with these people for a long time. And so early on at 23andMe, we had a different raise. We weren't looking to get 20% ownership from a VC coming in, and back then it wasn't so clear you were doing a seed versus things have kind of settled into this seed round, I think a lot more because we're seeing a lot more web startups, and you can do a lot on the seed round, but if you're really going to give up the seats in the seed round, what do you get back for that? And it's a chip in your negotiation, but I think the first thing is you hold that as close as you can and wait, and don't offer it right off the bat, and see how the investment plays out. And if you get one investor who's coming in and leading the round, then the other point is, do you really like who would be the board member, who would be the partner at the firm, or even the angel investor? Would they make a good board member? And then I think it's good to just be honest and talk to them about that and say, does this make sense? And then when we're going into the A round, do you stay on the board, or are you going to give up your seat because you're not going to be the lead investor anymore? So I think it's just really good to lay that all out there at the very, very early stages and see how they respond. But Michael, you've probably seen some shifts in
Well,
how this goes, right?
I think there has been. It's interesting because 2 years ago I would have said on a Series seed round, board seat, absolutely standard. I mean, it was an investor-friendly market. I think now, pausing on what's going on the broader markets today, I think 2 months ago I would have said a Series seed investment doesn't necessarily mean a board seat. So I think there is an unsettling shift going on right now, but certainly 2 years ago, board seat automatic with the Series seed. I think now, I don't know where it is now. So I think it depends. Linda, I think you're right. It really, how connected you are with the investor, I think has a lot to do with that.
Yeah, and then if you end up giving a seat, then you can even write that into your agreement with them, that it's a named person, so that if that person leaves the firm, the VC firm, or something shakes up and they're no longer available to be your board member, then you say that we have the voting rights to decide who comes on. Because if you leave that open, the VC firm may just come in and plunk somebody in that you can't stand, and you don't want to work with these people. So you want to make sure you reserve the right post settlement on who that person is. The other thing you can do is observers. A lot of VCs, at least we were surprised, were happy with an observer's role where they could get to come to every meeting, they just can't vote. But especially in the early stages of a company, you're not making a lot of board decisions where you're coming down to these really critical votes. You're still in the fun, everything's going well stage, and everybody's happy, and you're all pretty much in agreement, and board meetings end up being just updates to the board of what's the progress is, and typically it's going in a very good direction. It's when things start to go downhill and you're maybe looking at a down round or something that, oh no, then it gets hairy. So it's better, if you can, to have people in an observer role and wait as much as you can until you actually get the